The morning sun painted golden streaks across the canvas as Jasmine Reeves stepped back to examine her latest creation. Her small studio apartment in downtown Omaha felt even more cramped with easels crowding every corner, but this tiny space held all her dreams. The painting before her showed a lone figure standing on a cliff, arms outstretched toward a stormy sky, embodying hope against impossible odds. Another masterpiece that won't pay the rent, she whispered to herself, wiping paint-stained hands on her worn jeans. The eviction notice on her refrigerator served as a constant reminder that artistic passion didn't translate to financial stability. 3 months behind on rent, with her savings account showing a devastating balance of $47. Jasmine faced the harsh reality that her art career might be ending before it truly began. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend, Carolyn. Gallery called. Your painting sold at the charity auction prep. Someone wants to meet the artist tonight. This could be huge jazz. Jasmine's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and disbelief. The Pemberton Gallery had accepted just one of her pieces for their annual charity auction, and she had prepared herself for it to go unsold, like so many others. The thought that someone actually wanted to purchase her work felt surreal. That evening, Jasmine stood before her closet, staring at the limited selection of professional attire. She settled on a simple black dress she had worn to her college graduation 3 years ago, paired with her grandmother's vintage pearl necklace. Her long chestnut hair fell in natural waves around her shoulders, and despite her nervousness, she felt a spark of confidence returning. The Pemberton Gallery buzzed with Omaha's elite, men in expensive suits, and women dripping in jewelry that probably cost more than Jasmine's yearly income. She felt distinctly out of place as she navigated through the crowd, searching for gallery owner Mrs. Pemberton. Jasmine, darling, there you are. Mrs. Pemberton appeared beside her, elegant in a silver gown. I have someone very special who wants to meet you. He's been asking about your piece all evening. Mrs. Pemberton guided her through the crowd toward a quieter corner of the gallery where a man stood alone, studying her painting with intense concentration. He was tall with dark hair, touched by silver at the temples, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit that spoke of understated wealth. When he turned to face them, Jasmine was struck by his piercing blue eyes and the way they seemed to see straight through to her soul. Benjamin Hayes, meet our talented artist Jasmine Reeves, Mrs. Pemberton said with evident pride. Jasmine, Mr. Hayes is the gentleman who purchased your painting. Benjamin extended his hand, and when Jasmine shook it, she felt an unexpected electric current pass between them. His grip was firm but gentle, and he held her gaze with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Miss Reeves, your work is extraordinary, Benjamin said, his voice deep and measured. The emotion you've captured in this piece, it's powerful. I've been studying it for the past hour, and each time I see something new. Jasmine blushed, unused to such genuine praise from someone who clearly understood art. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. That means more to me than you can imagine. This piece, it represents hope in the face of adversity. Sometimes we have to embrace the storm to find our strength. Indeed, Benjamin replied, his expression growing thoughtful. I suspect you understand that concept personally. There was something in his tone that suggested he knew about struggles, that perhaps beneath his obvious success lay experiences with adversity. Mrs. Pemberton excused herself to tend to other guests, leaving Jasmine and Benjamin alone beside her painting. May I ask, what drew you to this particular piece? Jasmine asked, genuinely curious about his perspective. Benjamin was quiet for a moment, his gaze returning to the canvas. I've spent most of my adult life building walls, creating distance between myself and the world. Your painting reminds me that sometimes the most beautiful growth happens when we stop hiding from the storm and learn to dance in it instead. His words were unexpectedly poetic, revealing a depth that surprised Jasmine. She had expected a typical, wealthy art collector, someone who bought pieces for status rather than emotional connection. Benjamin Hayes was clearly something different. Are you an artist yourself? She asked. No, I'm in technology. Hayes Industries. Perhaps you've heard of it. He said this without arrogance, merely stating a fact. Jasmine's eyes widened slightly, Even from her small-town Nebraska background, she knew Hayes Industries. Benjamin Hayes was one of the youngest billionaires in America, known for revolutionizing cloud computing and artificial intelligence. Standing before her was a man whose wealth was almost incomprehensible, yet he spoke to her with genuine interest and respect. "I had no idea," she admitted. "I'm afraid I don't follow the business world very closely." "That's refreshing," Benjamin said with a slight smile. "Most people I meet are aware of my net worth before they know my name. It's nice to be seen for something other than my bank account." They talked for nearly 2 hours, moving from art to philosophy, from dreams to disappointments. Jasmine found herself sharing stories of her childhood in rural Nebraska, her struggles to make it as an artist in a practical world, and her fears about failure. Benjamin listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and sharing glimpses of his own journey from a middle-class upbringing to building his business empire. "The irony of success," Benjamin said as they sat in the gallery's small cafe area, "is that it often leaves you more isolated than poverty ever did. When you have nothing, people see you for who you are. When you have everything, they see what they want from you. But surely there are people in your life who knew you before the money?" Jasmine asked. Benjamin's expression darkened slightly. "Success changes relationships in ways you don't expect. Friends become employees or competitors. Romance becomes complicated by ulterior motives. After a while, it's easier to keep people at a distance." Jasmine sensed deep loneliness beneath his composed exterior. Here was a man who had achieved everything society deemed important, yet something essential was missing from his life. Felt an unexpected urge to comfort him, to show him that not everyone would view him as merely a financial opportunity. "I'm sorry if this is too forward," Jasmine said carefully, "but you don't seem like someone who should be alone. You're intelligent, thoughtful, clearly successful. Surely there are people who see your worth beyond your wallet." Benjamin studied her face for a long moment. "You really mean that, don't you? You're not saying what you think I want to hear?" "I don't know you well enough yet to know what you want to hear," Jasmine replied honestly. "I only know what I observe, and I observe someone who seems genuinely kind, despite having every reason to be cynical." Something shifted in Benjamin's expression, softening around his eyes that suggested her words had touched something he kept carefully guarded. He reached into his jacket and withdrew a business card, writing something on the back before handing it to her. "I'd like to see more of your work," he said. "I'd like to continue our conversation if you're interested. That's my personal number on the back." Jasmine took the card, feeling its expensive weight between her fingers. "Gosh, Mr. Hayes, I should probably mention that I'm not exactly in your social circle. I'm 3 months behind on rent, and my idea of fine dining is the pasta special at Tony's." Diner Benjamin laughed, and the sound transformed his entire face. "Miss Reeves, I started my first company in a garage with $97 to my name. Don't let anyone convince you that your current circumstances define your worth or your potential." As the evening wound down and the gallery began to empty, Benjamin walked Jasmine to her car, a 10-year-old Honda Civic that looked distinctly out of place among the luxury vehicles in the parking lot. "Thank you for tonight," he said as they reached her car. "I haven't had such an engaging conversation in longer than I care to admit." "Thank you for buying my painting and for treating me like a real artist," Jasmine replied. "That means everything to me." Benjamin hesitated for a moment, as if weighing his words carefully. "Jasmine, would you consider having dinner with me tomorrow night? Somewhere quiet, where we can talk without the distractions of a public event?" Jasmine's heart skipped. Was Benjamin Hayes, billionaire entrepreneur, actually asking her on a date? The reasonable part of her mind warned that they came from completely different worlds, that this could only end in heartbreak. But the hopeful part, the part that painted storms as opportunities for growth, whispered that some chances were worth taking. "I'd like that very much," she said, surprised by her own boldness. "I'll pick you up at 7, Benjamin said, then paused. "And Jasmine, please don't change anything about yourself because you think that's what I expect. Your authenticity is what made tonight special." As Jasmine drove home through the quiet streets of Omaha, she couldn't stop replaying their conversation. Benjamin Hayes had seen something in her art that resonated with his own experience of loneliness and longing. More than that, he had seen something in her as a person that he wanted to explore further. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling of her cramped apartment. Jasmine allowed herself to imagine what tomorrow might bring. She thought about the way Benjamin had looked at her painting, the way he had listened to her words as if they mattered, the way his smile had transformed his serious face into something warm and inviting. She had no way of knowing that across town, Benjamin Hayes was lying awake in his massive penthouse, thinking about a struggling artist whose passion for her craft reminded him of his own younger self. He was thinking about how refreshing it felt to be seen as simply Benjamin rather than Mr. Hayes of Hayes Industries, and how long it had been since someone had looked at him with genuine curiosity rather than calculation. Neither of them could have predicted that their chance encounter would set in motion a chain of events that would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, success, and what it meant to truly see another person. As Omaha slept around them, Jasmine and Benjamin both drifted off to dreams filled with possibility, unaware that their lives had just become beautifully, irrevocably intertwined. The morning would bring new questions, new fears, and new hopes. But for now, they both held on to the magic of an unexpected connection that had turned an ordinary evening into something extraordinary. The next evening arrived with an unseasonable warmth that seemed to mirror Jasmine's nervous excitement. She had spent the entire day alternating between anticipation and self-doubt, changing her outfit 3 times before settling on a simple burgundy dress that Caroline had insisted she borrow. When the sleek black Mercedes pulled up outside her apartment building at exactly 7 o'clock, Jasmine's heart hammered against her ribs. Benjamin emerged from the driver's seat, and Jasmine noticed he had chosen to drive himself rather than employ a chauffeur. He wore dark jeans and a crisp white shirt, more casual than his gallery attire, but somehow even more appealing. The formality of the previous evening had given way to something more relaxed, more genuine. "You look beautiful," he said as he opened the passenger door for her, his voice carrying none of the practiced smoothness she might have expected from someone accustomed to wealth and privilege. "Thank you," Jasmine replied, settling into the leather seat that probably cost more than her monthly income. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere I hope you'll find interesting," Benjamin said with a mysterious smile as he started the engine. "Thought we might skip the typical restaurant scene and try something different?" They drove through Omaha's downtown district and beyond, eventually turning into what appeared to be an industrial area. Jasmine's curiosity grew as Benjamin parked outside a converted warehouse with no visible signage. "Trust me?" he asked, noticing her puzzled expression. "I suppose I'll have to," she replied, though something in his demeanor put her at ease. Benjamin led her to an unmarked door where he knocked in what seemed to be a specific pattern. A small window slid open, revealing a pair of eyes that immediately brightened with recognition. "Mr. Hayes." "Welcome back," came a voice with a slight Italian accent. The door opened to reveal a stocky man in his 60s with flour-dusted hands. In a warm smile, "Giuseppe, I'd like you to meet Jasmine," Benjamin said. "Jasmine, this is Giuseppe Romano, the best chef in 3 states, though he keeps it a secret." They entered what Jasmine realized was an underground restaurant, or perhaps more accurately, a chef's private dining experience. The space was intimate, with exposed brick walls, candlelit tables, and the rich aroma of authentic Italian cooking filling the air. Only 4 other tables were occupied, creating an atmosphere of exclusivity without pretension. "How did you find this place?" Jasmine asked as Giuseppe led them to a corner table set with fresh flowers and flickering candles. "Giuseppe used to work for my family when I was growing up," Benjamin explained. "He taught my mother to cook, and after she passed, he became like a second father to me. When he decided to open his own place, I helped him get started. He only serves 12 people a night, by invitation only." Giuseppe returned with a bottle of wine and began describing the evening's menu in passionate detail. Jasmine watched Benjamin's face soften as he listened to the older man, seeing glimpses of the boy he must have been, surrounded by the warmth of surrogate family when his own world grew complicated by success and loss. As they shared antipasti and wine, their conversation flowed even more naturally than it had the previous evening. Benjamin asked about Jasmine's childhood in rural Nebraska, her relationship with her parents, who ran a small hardware store, and her decision to pursue art despite practical concerns. "My father wanted me to study business," Jasmine admitted, twirling pasta around her fork. "Said art was a nice hobby, but not a career. Part of me wonders if he was right. I've been struggling for 3 years, and I'm no closer to stability than when I started." "What would you do if money wasn't a factor?" Benjamin asked. "If you could create anything, support any cause, what would your art look like?" Jasmine's eyes lit up as she considered the question. "I'd want to create pieces that help people feel less alone. Art that speaks to the universal human experience of hope, loss, love, struggle. I'd want to work with underprivileged kids, show them that creativity can be a way to process pain and find strength. I'd want my work to matter beyond just decoration." Benjamin leaned forward, clearly captivated by her passion. "That's exactly what your painting did for me last night. It spoke to something I thought I'd buried years ago." "What do you mean?" Jasmine asked gently. Benjamin was quiet for a moment, swirling wine in his glass. "When I started my company, I believed I was going to change the world. The technology we developed was supposed to connect people, make life easier, solve problems. But somewhere along the way, it became about market share and profit margins. I lost sight of why I started." "Not too late to find that purpose again," Jasmine said. "Success doesn't have to mean losing your soul, doesn't it?" Benjamin's voice carried a weight of experience. "Every decision becomes about stakeholders and board members and stock prices. When you're responsible for thousands of employees and billions in assets, personal idealism becomes a luxury you can't afford." Giuseppe appeared with their main course, ossobuco, that fell off the bone, and risotto that seemed to melt on their tongues. As they ate, Benjamin shared stories of his early days as an entrepreneur, the excitement of innovation, the thrill of seeing ideas become reality. Jasmine could hear the passion beneath his current cynicism. The idealist who still existed under layers of corporate responsibility. "What if there was a way to marry your resources with your original vision?" Jasmine suggested. "What if instead of seeing wealth as a barrier to authenticity, you saw it as a tool for greater impact?" Benjamin studied her across the candlelit table. "You really believe that's possible?" "I believe you wouldn't be asking if part of you didn't think so too." After dinner, Giuseppe insisted on preparing his famous tiramisu, while Benjamin and Jasmine moved to a small lounge area with comfortable leather chairs and a fireplace that cast dancing shadows on the brick walls. "Can I ask you something personal?" Benjamin said, settling into the chair across from her. "I suppose that depends on how personal," Jasmine replied with a teasing smile. "Do you ever get lonely? Living by yourself? Pursuing a career that requires so much solitude?" Jasmine considered the question carefully. "Sometimes. But I've learned there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. When I'm painting, I don't feel lonely because I'm connected to something larger than myself. It's when I'm around people who don't understand what drives me that I feel most isolated." "I understand that completely," Benjamin said softly. "I'm surrounded by people all day, but most of them see me as a means to an end. It's been years since I've had a conversation like this, where someone listens to what I'm actually saying, rather than what they want to hear." Their eyes met across the small space, and Jasmine felt the intensity of connection that had sparked the night before. There was something magnetic about Benjamin Hayes, something that went far beyond his obvious success and attractiveness. He was a man carrying the weight of enormous responsibility while desperately seeking authentic human connection. "Benjamin," she said carefully, "what are you really looking for? I mean in your life, not just tonight." It was quiet for so long that Jasmine wondered if she had overstepped. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I want to feel something real again. I want to wake up excited about the day ahead rather than just going through motions. I want to be with someone who sees me as Benjamin, not as Hayes Industries. And I want to use what I've built for something that matters." Jasmine felt her heart ache for this man who had achieved everything society deemed important, yet felt so fundamentally empty. Without thinking, she reached across and touched his hand. Those things are all possible, she said, but they require risk. They require letting people close enough to potentially hurt you. Benjamin turned his hand palm up, gently holding hers. What if I told you I've been thinking about taking a risk? Significant one. What kind of risk? Benjamin hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. My company is in the middle of a major merger. The other party is very traditional, very focused on image and stability. They've made it clear that my bachelor status concerns them. They want to see evidence of personal stability before they'll sign. Jasmine felt confusion creeping in. What does that have to do with risk? I've been considering a proposition that would solve their concerns while giving me something I've been missing. Benjamin's grip on her hand tightened slightly. Jasmine, what I'm about to suggest is going to sound crazy, but I want you to hear me out completely before you respond. A chill ran down Jasmine's spine despite the warmth of the fireplace. What kind of proposition? Benjamin took a deep breath. I need a fiancé. Not permanently, just for the duration of the merger negotiations. 6 months, maybe 8. Someone intelligent, genuine, who can help me present the image of stability they're looking for. Jasmine pulled her hand away, her mind reeling. You're asking me to pretend to be engaged to you? I'm asking you to consider a mutually beneficial arrangement. You need financial security to pursue your art without constantly worrying about survival. I need to present a certain image to complete the most important business deal of my career. Benjamin, we've known each other for exactly 2 days, which is part of what makes it perfect, he continued, his words coming faster now as if he needed to get them out before losing his courage. You don't have preconceived notions about who I should be or what I should want. You're not connected to my world in ways that would complicate things afterward. Jasmine stood and walked to the fireplace, staring into the flames while trying to process what she was hearing. The man she had begun to genuinely like, who had seemed different from the wealthy manipulator she had always imagined, was essentially proposing to buy her cooperation in a deception. What exactly would this arrangement involve? She asked without turning around. You would move into my penthouse, attend business functions as my fiancé, help me present a united front during crucial meetings. In exchange, I would pay off your debts, provide you with a stipend that would allow you to focus entirely on your art, and ensure you have financial security for years after the arrangement ends. And what happens when the merger is complete? We have an amicable separation. I help you establish your own gallery or whatever artistic venture you choose to pursue. You get the freedom to create without financial pressure, and I get the business. Deal that will allow me to restructure my company around more meaningful goals. Jasmine turned to face him, seeing the vulnerability beneath his business proposition. Why me, Benjamin? You could hire an actress, find someone accustomed to this kind of arrangement. Because you're real, he said simply. Because when you look at me, you see a person, not a portfolio. Because your passion for your art reminds me of why I loved building my company in the first place. And because I trust you. You trust me? You've known me for 2 days? Sometimes you recognize something in someone immediately. You feel it too, don't you? This connection between us. Jasmine couldn't deny the pull she felt toward Benjamin, but the business nature of his proposal left her feeling conflicted. Was the connection real? Or was she simply responding to his charm and the solution he offered to her financial problems? What if it becomes complicated, she asked. What if one of us develops real feelings? Benjamin's expression grew serious. We're both adults. We can maintain appropriate boundaries while fulfilling the terms of our agreement. And if we can't, then we'll deal with that situation if and when it arises. Jasmine returned to her chair, studying Benjamin's face in the firelight. He was offering her everything she needed to pursue her dreams without compromise, but at the cost of living a lie for months. More troubling was her growing awareness that her feelings for him were already more complicated than a simple business arrangement could accommodate. How long do I have to decide? She asked. The merger discussions begin next week. I need an answer by Friday. And if I say no, then I respect your decision and hope we can remain friends. Jasmine nodded slowly. Benjamin, can I ask you something honestly? Of course. Are you hoping this stays purely business, or are you hoping for something more? Benjamin was quiet for a long moment, conflict clearly visible in his expression. I'm hoping it gives us both what we need, he said finally. Beyond that, I don't think either of us can predict what might develop. As Giuseppe appeared to drive them back to the city, Jasmine's mind churned with possibilities and concerns. Benjamin's offer represented security, artistic freedom, the chance to spend months in the company of a man who fascinated her more than anyone she had ever met. But it also meant entering into a deception that could complicate her feelings and compromise her integrity. During the quiet drive back to her apartment, Jasmine stole glances at Benjamin's profile, trying to read the emotions playing across his features. When they reached her building, he walked her to the door, but made no move to kiss her or extend the evening. "Think about it, Jasmine," he said softly. "Think about what you could create if money was never a concern again. Think about the impact you could have." "I will," she promised. "Benjamin, regardless of what I decide, thank you for tonight, for Giuseppe's restaurant, for the conversation, for treating me like someone worth knowing." "You are worth knowing," he replied with an intensity that made her breath catch. "That's exactly why I want to take this risk with you." As Jasmine climbed the stairs to her apartment, she felt as if she were standing at a crossroads that would determine the entire direction of her life. Behind one door lay continued struggle, but independence and authenticity. Behind the other lay security and opportunity, but also deception and emotional complications she couldn't fully anticipate. That night, she lay awake, staring at her latest painting, the storm scene that had brought Benjamin into her life. Had painted it as a metaphor for embracing uncertainty, for finding strength in chaos. Now she wondered if accepting Benjamin's proposition would be her own way of dancing in the storm, or if it would be abandoning her authentic self for the illusion of security. By morning, she knew her heart had already made the decision. Her mind was still debating. Friday morning arrived with the crispness of autumn settling over Omaha, and Jasmine knew she could no longer postpone her decision. She had spent 3 sleepless nights weighing Benjamin's proposition, analyzing every angle and implication. Her practical mind argued for accepting his offer, while her heart feared the emotional complications that seemed inevitable. At precisely 9 o'clock, her phone rang. Benjamin's name appeared on the screen, and she felt her pulse quicken despite her resolve to remain objective. "Good morning, Jasmine." His voice carried the same warm formality that had attracted her from their first meeting. "Hope I'm not calling too early?" "No, I've been awake for hours," she admitted. "Benjamin, I've made my decision." There was a pause that seemed to stretch forever. "And I'll do it," she said, the words leaving her lips before she could reconsider. "I'll be your fiancé for the merger." She heard him exhale, relief evident in the sound. "Thank you, Jasmine. I know this isn't an easy choice, and I want you to know how much I appreciate your trust." "There are conditions," she said quickly, needing to establish boundaries before she lost her nerve. "Name them." "First, complete honesty between us about everything related to this arrangement. Second, clear communication about expectations and boundaries. And third, when this is over, we both walk away with our dignity intact." "Agreed on all counts," Benjamin replied. "My attorney will prepare the necessary documentation, but I'd like to discuss the practical arrangements in person. Are you free?" "This afternoon?" "Yes. Though I should warn you that my apartment isn't exactly suited for business meetings." "Actually, I was thinking we should start as we mean to continue. I'll pick you up at 2, and we can discuss everything at the penthouse. You should see where you'll be living." After hanging up, Jasmine sat in her small kitchen, staring at the eviction notice she could finally remove from her refrigerator. Relief warred with apprehension as she considered the magnitude of what she had just agreed to. In a few hours, her life would change completely. The Hayes Industries building dominated downtown Omaha's skyline, its glass and steel structure reflecting the afternoon sun like a modern cathedral to commerce. Benjamin met her in the marble lobby, his business attire impeccable, but his expression softer than she had expected. "It's ready to see your new temporary home?" I asked, as they entered a private elevator that required his keycard to operate. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor, with floor 2 ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city and surrounding countryside. The decor was sophisticated but surprisingly warm, with rich fabrics and carefully chosen art that spoke of personal taste rather than professional decoration. "It's beautiful," Jasmine said, moving toward the windows that overlooked the Missouri River. "The light in here would be perfect for painting." "There's a room I thought you might use as a studio," Benjamin said, leading her down a hallway. "It faces east, so you'll have morning light, and it's large enough for multiple easels." The room he showed her was larger than her entire apartment. With built-in storage and a sink for cleaning brushes, someone had already installed professional lighting and a ventilation system suitable for oil paints. "When did you have time to arrange all this?" Jasmine asked, touched by the thoughtfulness of the preparations. "I may have been optimistic." "About your answer," Benjamin admitted with a slight smile. "I wanted you to see that this arrangement would support your artistic goals, not hinder them." They settled in the living room with coffee, and Benjamin spread documents across the glass coffee table. "The legal aspects are straightforward. You'll receive a monthly stipend, health insurance, and a clothing allowance for business functions. When our arrangement ends, you'll receive a final settlement that should provide security while you establish your career." Jasmine reviewed the numbers, her eyes widening at the generous amounts. "Benjamin, this is far more than we discussed." "You're taking a significant risk by agreeing to this," he replied. "I want to ensure you're properly compensated." As they discussed practical details about public appearances and the story they would tell about their relationship, Jasmine found herself watching Benjamin's expressions more than listening to his words. There was something in his eyes when he looked at her that suggested the business arrangement wasn't as purely transactional for him as he claimed. "When do we start?" she asked. "Tonight, actually. Yeah, there's a charity gala that several merger partners will attend. I thought it would be an ideal opportunity to introduce you as my fiancé." Jasmine felt panic flutter in her chest. "Tonight?" "Benjamin, I don't have anything appropriate to wear to that kind of event." "Already handled," he said, gesturing toward several garment bags hanging in the foyer. "I took the liberty of having a few options delivered. I hope that's not too presumptuous." The dresses were exquisite, clearly from high-end designers, and Jasmine felt overwhelmed by the luxury surrounding her new reality. As she examined the elegant gowns, Benjamin appeared beside her with a small jewelry box. "This was my mother's engagement ring," he said quietly. "I thought it would seem more authentic than something obviously new." Jasmine opened the box to reveal a stunning vintage ring with a central sapphire surrounded by diamonds. The setting was classic but distinctive, clearly an heirloom with history and meaning. "Benjamin, I can't wear your mother's ring," she protested. "It's too personal, too significant." "It's been sitting in a safe for 15 years, he replied. "My mother would have wanted it worn by someone who appreciates its beauty rather than its monetary value." That evening, as Jasmine prepared for her debut as Benjamin's fiancée, she barely recognized herself in the mirror. The midnight blue gown fit perfectly. The sapphire ring caught the light with every movement. Professional styling had transformed her usual casual appearance into something elegantly sophisticated. Benjamin's reaction when she emerged from the bedroom confirmed the transformation. His eyes widened with appreciation, and for a moment, the business nature of their arrangement seemed forgotten. "You look absolutely stunning," he said, his voice carrying genuine admiration rather than polite courtesy. "I feel like I'm playing dress-up," Jasmine admitted, smoothing the gown's fabric nervously. "You look like you belong in this world," Benjamin replied, offering his arm. "Trust me on that." The charity gala was held at Omaha's most prestigious hotel, with hundreds of guests representing the city's elite. As they entered the ballroom, Jasmine felt dozens of curious gazes, assessing the woman on Benjamin Hayes's arm. "Remember," Benjamin murmured as they approached a group of business associates. "We met at the gallery, connected over your art, and the relationship developed naturally from there." The next 2 hours tested Jasmine's acting abilities as she played the role of devoted fiancée to perfection. She listened attentively to business discussions she barely understood, charmed Benjamin's associates with genuine interest in their lives, and deflected probing questions about their relationship with practiced grace. But it was during the dancing that their performance became something more complicated. "You're a natural at this," Benjamin said as he guided her around the dance floor to a slow jazz standard. "You seem surprised," Jasmine replied, allowing herself to relax into his lead. "I'm impressed," he corrected. "You've handled every conversation perfectly, and you seem genuinely interested in people rather than just going through motions. That's because I am genuinely interested. Your business partners are fascinating, even if I don't understand everything they do. Benjamin pulled her slightly closer as the music swelled. You know what Patricia Morrison said to me when you went to get champagne? Something embarrassing, I'm sure? She said I looked happier than she'd seen me in years. She said, whatever you're doing for me, I should keep you around. Jasmine felt her heart skip at the compliment, but also at the implication behind it. And what did you tell her? That I intended to do exactly that. Their eyes met as they danced, and Jasmine felt the artificial boundaries of their arrangement blurring. The way Benjamin looked at her, the tenderness in his touch, the protective way he guided her through social situations, none of it felt like performance. Later that night, back at the penthouse, they sat in the living room still dressed in their formal attire, sharing a nightcap and discussing the evening's successes. I think we convinced everyone, Benjamin said, loosening his tie. Several people mentioned how natural we seem together. That's because we do work well together, Jasmine replied, kicking off her heels with relief. We have similar values and compatible personalities. It's not difficult to pretend we're in love when we genuinely like each other. Benjamin grew quiet at her mention of pretending to be in love. He stared into his whiskey glass for a long moment before speaking. Jasmine, can I confess something? Of course. Night didn't feel like pretending to me. When we were dancing, when you were laughing at Robert Chen's terrible jokes, when you asked Patricia about her daughter's wedding, none of that felt artificial. Jasmine felt her pulse quicken. What are you saying? Benjamin set down his glass and turned to face her fully. I'm saying that what I'm feeling for you goes beyond the terms of our agreement. I'm saying that somewhere between our first meeting and tonight, this stopped being business for me. The confession hung in the air between them, charged with possibility and danger. Jasmine had felt the same shift, the same growing awareness, that her feelings for Benjamin transcended their practical arrangement. Benjamin, she said carefully, we agreed to maintain boundaries. I know what we agreed, he replied, moving closer on the sofa. But I also know what I feel, and I think you feel it too. Jasmine couldn't deny the truth in his words. Every interaction had deepened her attraction to him, not just physically, but emotionally and intellectually. The man she had come to know over the past week was generous, thoughtful, and vulnerable in ways that made her want to comfort and protect him despite his obvious strength. This complicates everything, she whispered. Or it simplifies everything, Benjamin countered, reaching out to touch her face gently. Maybe we stop pretending this is just business and admit we're both hoping for something real. When he kissed her, soft and tentative at first, then deeper as she responded. Jasmine felt the last of her carefully constructed walls crumble. This was no longer about financial security or business mergers. This was about two people who had found something unexpected and precious in each other. They spent the next hour talking honestly about their growing feelings, about the risks and possibilities of turning their fake engagement into something genuine. Benjamin admitted that he had been drawn to her from their first meeting, that his business proposition had been partly motivated by a desire to keep her in his life. Jasmine confessed that she had been fighting her attraction to him since the night at Giuseppe's restaurant. What happens now? Jasmine asked, as they sat curled together on the sofa, her head resting on his shoulder. Now we see where this leads us, Benjamin replied, pressing a kiss to her hair. We continue with the business arrangements as planned. But we also explore what's developing between us personally. If it doesn't work out, then we'll deal with that honestly too. But Jasmine, I haven't felt this hopeful about anything in years. What we have, it's worth the risk. Over the following weeks, their relationship deepened beyond anything either had expected. The business functions became opportunities to showcase their genuine connection rather than perform a role. Benjamin supported Jasmine's art with resources, an encouragement that went far beyond their agreement.